Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called American Admits 7 Things Brits Do Better, American in the UK. Okay, those are like fighting words, but I don't know, it makes me a little scared. But let's check it out and comment, like and subscribe.
And you literally have a whole sandwich and the filling are French fries. I mean, does it get better than that?
What?
No, it does not. Hey guys, welcome back to another Girl Gone London video. If you're new here, my name is Caitlin. I'm an American who's lived in the UK for almost 10 years, and today I'm finally admitting things that the Brits do better than the Americans. Okay, so in my last video, which I felt was pretty neutral and just pointing out the differences between the UK and the US, I got some comments of people saying, clearly you don't like the UK, you don't want to be here, and I get that a lot, and I think part of
this is hard because I think like you try to remain neutral, and I think like there's gonna be positive things and negative things from like both sides in both sides of the Atlantic, but people are gonna get mad either way.
If it comes down to people not understanding that I'm being lighthearted about how I'm reacting to things in the UK. So I'm just sharing my experiences as an American reacting to certain things. And so obviously that is going to come with some jokes. Sometimes I'm being serious. I do think a US road trip is more fun than a UK road trip. So if we disagree, we disagree. But for the most part, it's lighthearted. I don't think that either country is actually better than the other. I think it's a very gray area. And so I wanted to
I think like, again, all countries, like they have good things and they have bad things. Like one's not better than the other.
Create these videos where I'm just going to list some of the things that I really feel like they do better here in the UK than in the US, just so everybody knows that I do not hate the UK. However, I am also going to do a video of things that the US does better than the UK. Okay. So we can argue when we get to that video. Hey guys, briefly interjecting here because I forgot to mention today's question. And today's question is, what is your favorite part about the UK? What is your favorite part about living here? Maybe you're a Brit, maybe you are someone who is an expat here, maybe you're just a visitor and you really like the UK. Comment below and tell me your favorite part about living here. So the first thing, and I've done a whole video about this, is the NHS. The idea here is that medical care is for all, regardless of your ability to pay, and is not a privilege, but a right, is 100% better than...
That's what it should be, right? Like, healthcare should be a given.
And the state of affairs in the US, which works for people who do have the means to pay for healthcare, but does not work for a lot of people who fall in different areas. The idea here that you have a child and you walk out of the hospital without paying a bill is really astounding to a lot of Americans. And after moving here and living with the NHS and getting accustomed to that way of life, obviously paying for it in other areas and your taxes and things, but the idea that I don't have to worry about how much the ambulance is going to cost me is 100% something that the UK does much better than the US. Okay, the next thing is the cost of food in the supermarket / grocery store. So if you've ever traveled to the US as a Brit, you probably, if you stepped foot in a grocery store, would be shocked by the food prices. Here in the UK, food in the grocery store in particular is so much less expensive than in the US.
That surprises me because I think, well, yeah, I think maybe it just depends because she didn't mention like what city she was in. I'm thinking London, like isn't London notoriously expensive? So I don't know, I think price comparisons, like, I don't know, that's shocking to me.
Yes. Something that in the US would cost like $2 to $3 for like a loaf of bread or something would be like 50p to maybe a pound here. So when Americans are coming over and thinking about their budget for food in the UK, usually we spend a lot less than you would in the US. That's so interesting. We spend about £200 per month on food for 2 people, and sometimes we do spend less than that. In the US, I really don't think that would get you a month's worth of food for 2 people just because of the prices. So in that way, I definitely think the UK is better than the US.
Is it like $250, like around $250? I think for 2 people, like in a month, yeah, I don't think that's nowhere near enough.
Okay, the next thing on my list may seem a little bit trivial, but for somebody who loves French fries / chips, yes, I know they're not the same thing, British people, I do understand, but as an American...
Aren't, like, for them, French fries, your American French fries are the chips for them, right? Am I understanding this correctly? Because I think chips, to me, are the chips, like, come in a bag. But I know that in the UK, those are French fries, right? But maybe I'm wrong?
We would call anything that is a fried potato a French fry. We wouldn't differentiate between, we don't have another word. We would just call it like thick cut French fries, maybe. Anyway, here in the UK, I feel like they pair French fries / chips with so many things that we wouldn't in the US, which
like
I'm
what?
a total fan of. So for instance, what they would call a chip buddy, translated into American, would be a French fry sandwich. They've got thick cut French fries on a sandwich, and they eat it with ketchup or with salt, or someone told me the other day, like vinegar, and you literally have a whole sandwich.
Oh my God.
Are French fries.
That's crazy.
Does it get better than that? No, it does not.
I don't know. It looks interesting. I'd try it, but I've never, I don't know, like bread and French fries. I love French fries, but I don't know, with the bread, isn't that weird?
Another thing they tend to pair fries with here that I've noticed is they will have pizza and fries as one meal. Pizza and chips, they would call it.
That's the thing, a lot of people like this. I'm not a fan. I think I don't know. Those two things, like, they don't really go together.
That's not really a combo that we do in the US.
No,
we would maybe have, like, maybe you would have pizza and garlic bread, so we do get, like, the double carbs in there. But pizza and fries would just it's just seen as, like, a weird combination.
It's weird, yes.
But it's the best combination, because what could possibly be better than eating an entire meal of pizza and fries? So
No, I'm sorry. The food flavors are totally different. I don't think they go together. I'm sorry. I just do not.
I feel like the US should really get on board with this. I'm not saying people don't do it. I'm just saying it's definitely not a popular combination that people automatically go to. And I really feel like this is one of the best things the UK has done for the world. Okay, the next thing that's much better in the UK than in the US is public transportation, or what they would call public transport for short.
To begin with, they have one. I don't think the US has, like, it's probably non-existent in a lot of places.
You can get around almost the whole of the UK by trains, boats, buses.
The American mind would not comprehend this.
Don't have to have a car. Obviously, in the more rural areas, it is definitely, like, much more convenient to have a car. Tons of people drive and not just rely on public transportation. But the point remains that if you lived in a lot of places in the States and you didn't have a car, you would have almost no options.
Yeah.
Here in the UK, you can live in a lot of places without a car. And I'm not just talking about London. I'm not just talking about cities. You could live in a more suburban area and have plenty of buses that are going to connect you to your town and to surrounding towns that are relatively, on time, on a good schedule. In the US, I'm used to bus transportation. Where I'm from in Florida, basically non-existent, and if it is existent, it's just not something that people take. It's not necessarily reliable. Here, public transportation is often used, is popular, is reliable, and obviously it's easier to link a smaller country than all of America.
Well, yes, but that theory, I think, falls apart when you consider the fact that they have train systems, I think Europe in general, not just the UK, that goes along other countries. So it's like, well, that theory falls apart.
It is what it is, and the UK wins for that one.
Yeah.
The next thing that's better in the UK than in the US is the type of roofs that they have on their homes. Only because
Why? I've never thought of this.
In the US, we are used to needing to replace our roof like every 10 to 15 years, I think it is. Particularly the area where I'm from in Florida, this is a common way to do roofs. In the UK, you don't necessarily think about replacing your roof. No one's ever brought that up in like the house buying process of this roof will need to be replaced or anything like that. So I'm not entirely sure the differences between the roofs. I know here they have like much thicker like blocks that they use on the roof, whereas in the US we kind of use like these flimsy
What if you have like a leak or something? Shouldn't you repair that?
roof tiles. It could also be they're not exposed to, you know, the same amount of extreme weather as in the US. I know in Florida we have to contend with like hurricanes and the heat and things like that. It's a bit more
Obviously, Florida is the exception, but I think like the UK has isn't that a harsh type of weather?
mild here in the UK, so maybe that plays in.
Also, I think it just depends. Not all places in the UK get snow, so I don't know. It depends on the place.
Into it, but overall, your roof is not going to be like a huge expense that
I get it.
you have to shell out for as soon as you
It's not like a worry in the back of your mind.
buy your house, and you don't really have to factor that into your budget. So it's a very specific thing, but it is something that's better here in the UK. Okay, the next thing that's better in the UK is work-life balance. So in America, we definitely have a go-getter culture, which I do like in some ways, but when it comes to the work-life balance, it's not good whatsoever. We have, you know, we don't have federal required vacation time or holiday time, as they would say here in the UK. Lots of companies will have like an allocated number of sick days, and after you reach the end of your sick days, then you have to start using your vacation time, or you basically don't get paid. Here in the UK, most companies, like if you're sick, you're sick. Obviously, if it's an ongoing problem, they'll work with you, but you're not freaking out that you're going to use up all of your time. In fact, there is a rule, I believe, that if you are on holiday, if you're using holiday time and you get sick or ill, as they say here, because getting sick in the UK is like throwing up, but Americans say getting sick to mean getting ill. If you get ill during vacation time or holiday time, I'm pretty sure you can like claim back part of those holiday days
Really?
and use your sick day and just take it as a sick day instead. But in general, there's not this hustle culture of you need to, you know, like dedicate your entire life to your job. I think people here recognize that they're
you need to like, I'm throwing up like crazy, I still need to get to work. It's like, no, stay at home, please.
Is more to life than work. And I mean, obviously the cultures play into it, and what we prioritize and what we see as important in life and important qualities to have as a person. But definitely in the UK, you're not always worried that you're going to lose your job because of something stupid. It's pretty difficult to actually fire somebody here after they've worked here for a long time, and you just have a better work life.
I'm wondering how that works. What happens if it's like they're a bad employee and you want to fire them and you can't?
Balance overall in many areas. And the last difference I came up with, again, might seem more trivial, but it has to do with a UK plug. So a UK plug, 1 minute, I will show you. If you're an American, this is what a UK plug looks like. So it actually has this third bit. So if you can kind of see 1, 2, and 3. A US plug only has 2.
Yeah, I don't get what the third things are.
Plug-in things, is that the official term? So plugs here tend to stay in the wall a lot better than in the US, where it can be a problem for them falling out if they're pretty loose or get knocked by something. A UK plug is like not falling out of whatever it's plugged into. And again, it's a small thing, but something that I have noticed, and I do think it's better in the UK than in the US. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my video. Definitely comment below and let me know your favorite part about the UK. I know not everyone will have other countries to compare with, so just tell me, what is it that you love the most about the UK, whether it is whether you are British or whether you are just a visitor. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, my favorite part about this video was the sandwich, like the chip sandwich. Like, that was the most intriguing part about this video to me. Like, because I'm curious. I want to try it now. I know I said, like, I don't know, it looks weird, but maybe it's something like it's better than it looks. The pizza and the fries I haven't had it, but I've seen it. I do not agree with this. I don't know. I'm like, no, those are two like different flavors that I don't think go together. But the bread and the fries, I think they don't really go together either. I think But if I think about it, it's like, well, you know what? Shouldn't, like, why wouldn't they go together? Like, when you're having a sandwich, like, it's common, or a burger, that's a bun, that's a bread, and you're having fries. So, you know, maybe it isn't as weird as I'm imagining the thing. I think what's throwing me off, I don't know, actually. I think it's just like a weird concept of like, I'm making myself a sandwich. It's like, oh, slice of cheese or something. It's like lettuce. No, I'm putting fries. It's like, that's very strange. I think it looks like very, I don't know, very starchy, like very heavy. But again, like, it's common to eat like fries and a burger, so maybe it's just like a psychological thing, and it's not actually a taste thing. And you have ketchup, which again, ketchup and fries, obviously love it, and bread and ketchup, I really do like it as well. So you know what? I think I'm gonna go and try this. It's like, it looks quite strange, but and yes, I'm like, you know what? I'm intrigued enough to actually want to try this at home. The other, I think, like, I'm thinking of like, shouldn't it also be better if you just like put like a cheese slice, some sort of like cheese, actually, you put cheese and you put ketchup and then the fries. I don't know, I'm making it like not the most nutritious of meals, but you know, like, there's no protein there, but you know, do they have this for, I don't know, like lunch, or do they have this as a sort of like a snack? Like, I don't know, like a salty snack when you're, I don't know, when you've been drinking for a hangover, I don't know, or do they just like, no, I'm having this for breakfast, like, I don't know, like, it is a strange concept to me, like, where exactly are you having this, or just like, you want to make yourself a sandwich, and this is what you have to like, oh, I have to do my French fries, and it's like, okay, well, sure, why are you doing that? I don't know. And do they serve this at a pub, or I was going to say a restaurant, but like, restaurants do not tend to have those. Well, I'm thinking of like fancy restaurants, not a fancy restaurant, but does a normal pub or a normal restaurant offer this kind of sandwich, like for whatever, you know, for lunch or something? I don't know how common it is. I would love to know. I think again, it's like looks like very heavy, very sort of like a lot of starches. But I'm intrigued enough to actually want to try this. I'm wondering like how they came up with this, but it's like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Like, who doesn't love French fries? That's, I think, like, I'm with her. It's like, who doesn't love French fries? Like, put them in your sandwich. It's like, sure, why not? It's like, I feel like you're a little in like lawless land, but yeah, sure. Like, when in the UK, when in Rome. The other is like the roofing thing. I've never actually thought of this as an actual, again, a problem. Like, it's good, but I never actually, again, I have questions. It's like, but what's up with the roof over there? Like, do they just have like better like insulation? Is that thing about insulation? No, probably not. She said like maybe it's something to do with like the bricks, but I don't know if that's the thing either. I think it's just like construction methods are just different, and that's it. And you need to like, you don't need to replace your roof that often, or maybe never. But I think, again, what happens if you have like a leak or something? Like, those things happen, right? I think that's normal. But you know, especially like in older houses, not obviously a new house, but it's like there's still like, can it call like, isn't this like, there's a warranty, right? But I think like something that's really, you know, like, it's weird, but actually like not that weird if I really do think about this, because it's like, yeah, well, I think like you're used to like in the like how Americans like build houses, which are like cardboard houses basically, like they're very flimsy. And you're used to like, again, tornadoes and hurricanes like blowing the houses away, and there's like a lot of like the houses deteriorate like pretty easily, especially like if you're from places. She mentioned she's from Florida. I don't really know, like she didn't mention where exactly in Florida, but you know, depends, you know, if you're like if you're in the south, yes, there's the beach, but if you're in the north, like and there's also like hurricanes can hit you pretty hard. So again, it just depends on sort of like how the weather is like. But again, the UK also think has like harsh weather, or can get harsh weather, not hurricanes or tornadoes, but they get harsh weather as well. But I think it's just a thing of like construction methods being different, and that in the UK, I am expecting houses to be like sturdy and to be like very long lasting, or actually, because, well, I was going to say something very stupid. It's like, how many new houses are they building? Probably a lot of, like, yes, of course they're building new houses, but I would assume, and maybe again, I could be off about this, but I would assume that most houses in the UK have already been built. Like, it's not, if you're like buying a house, which I think that this is like the actual problem, because obviously if you don't own this house, it's really like, it's, you know, the landlord should take care of it. But if this is your house and you're like buying a new house, I think like most again, maybe I'm off about this, but I would assume like it's gonna be an older house. They're not building a house, not a newer house, because those are probably far few in between. Because you already have houses, so it's like we're just like selling, we're gonna buy a house that's already there. Maybe I'm doing some, yeah, I'm gonna remodel or something like that. But usually the case is that you buy a house that's already like pre-owned, and then you're not actually like, oh, it's new. But again, so maybe I'm wrong, but maybe, I don't know. But I think it's just because I have it in my mind that, you know, construction and in the UK obviously is different. And houses are like built to last a really long time, which is really not the case with the US. Houses are like, oh, well, the tornado like took out the house. Well, we're just like make a new one, and again, it all goes into the cost, and because it's different and stuff. But all the houses tend to be a little flimsy of like just whatever. We'll just like buy. We'll just like build a new one. So maybe again, I can be a little off about this. Maybe like the UK is constantly building a bunch of houses, but I would assume if you're buying a house, chances are in the UK, chances are your house is gonna be an old house, and it's not gonna be like, oh, a new house. It's new for you, but it's not new as in like the structure. But good to know that the roof is not going to be, you're not gonna have to replace the roof apparently, which, you know, it never had occurred to me, but okay, things to worry about. The actual, like the food prices also, I think I was a little shocked about this. Because again, I think like the UK has a reputation for being like a little more expensive, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a reputation and it's not actual, like in the reality, that's really not the case. I think just depends on, I think that can vary like so much depending on like where, even in the same country, I think it varies like depending on the city. Like food prices in the grocery store, like they really are very variable. Like they're constantly like they're changing, especially in this, like in the last couple of years. Things are not, you know, it's all prices are going up, right? It's not, they're not getting lower. Sometimes they do get lower, obviously, but as a general rule, like costs have gone up just in general. So I would still expect, well, if the prices were higher to begin with, I would expect them to only go higher as the cost of living like increases, and it's not gonna be lower. But again, maybe it's just London, and maybe she's not in London, and other cities probably like have cheaper prices, and especially compared to maybe where she was from in the United States, and that's where the comparison comes from, where she's like, no, actually like food is actually cheaper here, which, you know, again, quite intrigued by that. But I really do believe that this can change like so much depending on the city, because I guarantee if you compare the prices in, I don't know, a smaller sort of like British town, and if you compare those prices with a place like, yeah, in any center, like center LA, for instance, or I don't know, Brooklyn, like the prices are probably going to be like, they're going to be higher in the US. So again, maybe that's I'm totally wrong about this, but I think I would venture to say that's really the case. So I really do believe it just depends. It depends on like which cities. I think that's the thing. It can be hard to compare because they're very, like, again, just depends on what city like you're actually comparing this with. So I don't know, I don't think it's like you can't really make a comparison, unless obviously for you, of course it is, but if you're comparing to the baseline of where I was living and where I live now. But I think you can make the case for this even in the UK, because if you move to, I don't know like the prices. I've never actually heard about the prices in, I don't know, Edinburgh. But if you compare the prices in Edinburgh, you move to London, probably there's gonna be a difference, like again, between them. Or maybe the difference is not that much, because that only happens in the US, and maybe that's an actual, you know, that's actually interesting. Because again, like I mentioned, in the US, there's gonna be quite a stark difference between like the smaller sort of like towns and the bigger towns, and again, especially compared like with in which area you're in, what state you're from. But maybe in the UK it doesn't really change that much, like it doesn't matter if you're like in a town, in a smaller town, or in a smaller village, and you compare it to like a bigger city, like I don't know, like Oxford or Cambridge, like maybe it's not, there's not much of a difference. And I think maybe that's where this is coming from, of like, you know what, it's actually not, it's almost the same. And in the US it would definitely not be the same. It's like, no, I guarantee like the prices are going to change if you move states and if you move cities, especially like if they're like opposite from each other, like the prices you're gonna notice the difference. Although I do agree that she was like, I don't know how, she was like around 250 or something pounds. I don't know that how much is that in dollars. Probably 300. I don't know, like around, or maybe 280. I think the ballpark was way too high. I think maybe around 280. Yeah, for a month for 2 people, that's nowhere near enough in the US. I guarantee that's not really, no, absolutely not. Maybe like stretching it out, maybe you can go for like 2 weeks probably, but not, I don't think you can maybe do this in a month. But again, depends on what city you're from, because I think if you're from a smaller, in a town in the middle of nowhere, probably you can make it. It's like, no, actually, I think we're good. So, but again, it just like depends on a lot of things. And the public transportation one, and it's like, yes, of course, it's pretty non-existent, and it's like, it's like, oh, she was like, well, making an excuse for like the obviously the United States is like very big, so it can be hard to actually have an interconnecting like train system or even buses. But it's like, yes, I agree on one hand that yes, of course it is bigger, but again, Europe like has so many, and this is not a UK thing, but Europe has a lot of like interconnecting like trains, and the trains connect to like the buses. So it's hard, but it's possible. I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's the easiest thing in the world. No, it probably is, it costs a lot of money probably, and it costs us a lot of like, it's not any convenience, but it really does. You do have to make like an effort, and I think that's where it comes from. Like it's probably like in the US doesn't really want to spend money and resources into doing this, but it's a thing about like wanting and not a thing about like you can't, because even then you can make it. Like again, you're telling me that in a smaller town, or even in like bigger cities, like you can't actually like create a public transportation system that actually works. I'm not asking for much. Like I'm not asking to go from, I don't know, from Nebraska to, I don't know, Chicago. Like no, that's not what it is. But even between like the inner city, and again, I think that's actually really a big problem in like smaller towns and in smaller sort of like cities, in which again, if you don't have a car, you're just like, you're dead on arrival, basically. Like you're just like, no, you actually can't exist. So those are, I think, obviously resources can be definitely put into this, and they just do not want to. I think again, maybe there's like a whole thing of why like it's more expensive, like, oh, it's a cost sort of like thing, like we're gonna spend a lot of money and probably not a lot of people are gonna benefit from this. But it's like, I don't know, I think in one of these things, like if you're improving the life of, I don't care how many people, it's like, oh, there's not millions of people, yeah, but it's like, I don't know, it's in the thousands, and I don't know, like, shouldn't you, like, those people deserve to have, like, good quality of life, and that includes good public transport. So, I don't know, I feel very strongly about this, but again, I'm not a politician, and I'm not in the government, so I think probably that's why my perspective is a little bit different, and obviously the perspective of someone in the government is going to be more about, like, no, it's really not worth it, because of like it's a lot of money and few people, like the reward is like very little and stuff. But it's like, yeah, well, people still deserve it. So I have strong feelings about this, but it is what it is. But yes, this was, I definitely agree that there's some things that definitely the Brits do better, and it's not necessarily you wouldn't say like, oh, and that's why the UK is like a better country than the United States. Like no, it's not with this. But again, there are positive things from both sides, and just as the UK has like a couple of things that they're definitely better at, the US also has its things in which like they are definitely better, and they succeed at this better than the Brits. So it isn't like you shouldn't take this as a slight offense. It's just like, no, it is what it is. Some things are going to be better, some things are going to be worse, but in the end, I think all like evens out, and there's no winners and losers basically. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.